Welcome back to Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We've got a very special episode for you. The eyes of the college football world will be on Dublin once again as the Aer Lingus College Football Classic kicks off the 2026 college football season. We've got North Carolina from the ACC, head coach Bill Belichick making the trip to Dublin, taking on TCU from the Big 12, and we've got two fantastic guests to help preview the game. First up, we've got friend of the show, returning guest Shane Brennan from the Irish NFL show to give us the inside track on North Carolina, and then we've got Simon Carroll from the Touchdown. Si's making his first appearance in 3 years on Good Teams and Great Teams Cover. Too long, if you ask me, but Si self-confessed Big 12 stan. You will not find a bigger fan of the Big 12 than Si, and he gives us TCU's outlook for the game in Dublin and the season ahead. There are still tickets available for the game at Aviva Stadium. Get yourself a couple, get down to Dublin, come have a fantastic weekend and enjoy what should be a tremendous game of college football at the Aviva. But let's jump straight to it. First up, Shane, and then we'll talk to Simon.
Kicking off our Aer Lingus College Football Classic preview, we've got a friend of the show now, Shane Brennan from the Irish NFL show. Shane, you're back. I think this is like the third or fourth time we've had you on. Welcome back. How are you getting on?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to. I don't know if any of your listeners are really in tune with the Irish sporting calendar, but GAA and NFL live in two very different times of the year. NFL and American football at large. Gaelic football finishes up, and it finished up with Mayo winning the All Ireland for the first time in over 70 years. This great curse lifted. I imagine a lot of fans of people, particularly like the Buffalo Bills, are hoping that some sort of curse lifting aura might also across the Atlantic. And as soon as that's finished, which is an incredibly busy time for any of us who work in sports media and Ireland, we got cracking into the American football season. So it's all go here, and I'm really looking forward to watching UNC and TCU face off in the Aviva Stadium in a few days' time.
Yes, it's a very exciting game, and it should be a cracking one. And can you mention kind of the ebbs and flows of kind of the sporting calendar? And Ireland is the centre of the college football world with this game now, and has become that kind of this week zero showcase game that we've had. And college football has been played in Ireland for, I think, as far back as 88 was the first time, in various different forms. Emerald Isle Classic, Shamrock Classic, loads of different names for it. The last 10 years or so, it's been settled in as the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. And this is the fifth year in a row, I think, we're going to have a game from 22 every year to 20. I forgot what year we're in, 26. So 5 in a row, and we've got another one next year as well that's in the books. How big a part of the calendar, sporting calendar in Ireland, is now this game? Because it's the centre of the college football world for that one weekend at the end of August.
I think there's a difference in how big this is in the sporting calendar, depending on how big it is in the events calendar, because this has always been a big tourism drive. The history of this clash comes, the Aer Lingus Classic in particular. I know you were saying college football as a sport has a longer history in Ireland, and Notre Dame with the Fighting Irish links, obviously something that both the Irish and people in Notre Dame have been willing to build on. But I think what. Can you hear a fire alarm going off?
It's all good. Don't worry about it. You're right.
Sorry. You could, yeah.
We'll edit it out. Just go and I will clean it up. Don't worry.
I think, though, in terms of what this is, the original Aer Lingus College Classic happened in around 2013 as part of a government initiative called The Gathering, which was during the recession when a lot of Irish people left to sort of emigrate, and there was a sense that things were starting to kick back into gear in Ireland. There was this tourism drive to try and bring people back to Ireland, either as a way of moving back or to try and kickstart business in Ireland, and college football was seen as a driver of that, and it still is. That's one of the main reasons why the Irish government puts a lot of money behind this event happening every year. So the result of that is when you're in Dublin, when the college game is on, it's a festival. You notice it, particularly from Thursday onwards when all the Americans start coming in and the bands start playing. There's a couple of city squares. If anybody's coming over, Smithfield, which is on the north side, and the Lewis Red Line, is a great place to go and find a lot of college football action. A lot of them more on the south side, near to where the stadium is. That it becomes one of my favorite weeks, and I'm not just saying this as an American football person, as somebody with an American affliction. It genuinely is one of the greatest, most fun weeks to be in Dublin outside of St. Patrick's Day. And St. Patrick's Day is full of a lot of, drunkards who make a mess of things, and it's a lot of rain. Whereas this at the end of August might be nice and sunny. People are having great fun. There's lots of different business events and fun events and people going around. But that's what it is. It's an event. I don't think that people in Ireland broadly understand what college football is yet. And that has resulted in, I work at the Irish Independent newspaper and company, and people want to talk to you about that. They ever want to talk about the event, what it's like being at a college game. They don't want the X's and O's of football in the way that was slightly different when the NFL came to Ireland last year. So look, it's still one of the most fun things. I'm really looking forward to it. But I guess just the nature of this, because it's a tourism thing. I mean, when Notre Dame came here a couple of years ago, it wasn't a great thing that all the Irish came to watch our team play. It was in fact the other way around. Over 40,000 people came across the Atlantic to Ireland. It was the biggest single movement of American citizens since D-Day into one particular spot. That was the stat going around for when Notre Dame played. And my personal favorite when FSU played against Georgia Tech the following year, that great Southern style passion for football between the Florida State and Georgia Tech guys would end up being a shock result. There was an Irish guy playing for Georgia Tech that day. That to me is one of the best sporting events I've ever been at. That whole week, the sunshine and everything was brilliant. And I certainly hope for something similar this week when we have more Southern teams coming over. But I guess the sense is this is still a tourism thing more than a sport thing, which when the NFL came to Dublin, everybody who was interested in a sport wanted a sense of that. Whereas college football, rightly or wrongly, this is still very much seen as an excuse for a lot of Americans to come and spend their money in Dublin pubs and on golf courses up and down the island. That's sadly, but also if it wasn't that case, we probably wouldn't be having all these college games here. But that is kind of what it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we see in the years we've been going to watch the game Dublin, speaking to many of the American fans that come over, they do make a trip of it. They do want to, see some of their family history and travel around Ireland as a whole, not just Dublin. And that's a part of the experience for them. And where it's placed, the fact that it's kind of week 0 is perfect for them to kind of do that. And yeah, you mentioned that Florida State game. I don't think I'll get the Florida State chant out of my head from kind of hearing 25,000 plus of the Florida State fans that came over singing it. And also the sort of parallels to that game, quite interesting. You mentioned the Southern teams. Irish player played in that game on the winning side. We could have that happen again this week with North Carolina. We shall see. I suppose from your perspective, as someone who is so close to American football and all things American football in Ireland, what makes this work? What makes this game work? And why has it become such an established fixture? Why does it kind of work as an event? We see the attraction from the American side thing, but it just seems to be gaining in popularity.
A few things. The stadium that it's played in is pretty cool, and it's also the right size for it. I mean, 52,000 people, by the time they sell tickets for American football. It's a great event. There isn't a bad seat in the house. You sell, the number of tickets are being sold means that you've enough for all the people who are going to come from America, but also plenty of space for people from Ireland or from the UK who are coming over. We know it's they usually try to hold this on a week that's also a bank holiday in England, which helps for people flying over from your side of, is it the pond when it's over on in England? Your side of the river that splits us. So I think that's a part of it. The PR around it has always been quite well done. When you look at ESP, well, apart from last year, but we'll talk about last year's in a separately. But generally speaking, the PR around it, because they sell Ireland as a place to come to very well. Dublin as a city, because it's not too big, and this is one thing that when we compare this to what may happen in the Union Jack Classic, Dublin is the kind of city that when something happens in the city, it takes over, because we're only a city of 1 million people. We're roughly the same size as Liverpool or Leeds. A big event like this doesn't get lost in town. It takes over. And Irish people, as people, we just jump into it. We don't really begrudge it, even if it closes down certain streets. We all get out there. We all try to have fun with it. And that then spreads in terms of word of mouth, but also in terms of how you sell everything. But the big thing was, I don't remember, a couple of years ago, I can't remember what game it was. I think it was the game between Northwestern and Nebraska, the first of the current slate, when the card machines broke. So they you physically couldn't pay for beer. Do you remember this? So what they did was they said, okay, give the beer out for free. And I was there. I wasn't working media this game. I was sitting in that match behind two lads who gotten free tickets because they work for Aer Lingus. And basically, they tag teamed, being like, right, when you come back with your drinks, I'll go up and get mine. So there's a lot of places around the world that when that happens, they would have been like, lads, listen, if we can't take in the money, we can't sell the product. And the Irish were like, nah, this is a great opportunity for us to sell ourselves here. You know, make sure every person that comes up can only get two at a time. So let's not go too mad. But nah, let's give it here. We're here to have a good time. They were doing the whole slinky thing with the cups, and that went viral on social media. And that really built in a lot of momentum for the next 2 years in particular, when people were like, why should I come to Ireland? Oh, yeah, because they understand college football crack. To use a phrase we have, they understand what college football is. It's fun over the complete corporatism, which I think we see in some other sporting events. And I think that helps mesh well with college football and Ireland. And as well as that, up until this year, it was also the only time college football came to Europe. The Union Jack Classic, of course, changing that. And we know that college football has tried to get a game on in Germany, has been unsuccessful in doing so. We know the University of Michigan was trying to get a game on in Frankfurt, haven't quite gotten that over the line. So I think all those things combined just make it a great trip for Americans, a great day out for Irish people who may not be interested in the sport, but go to the event every year, even if they have no idea what's going on. And Dublin just embraces things like this. It's what makes the city. I'm biased because I'm originally from there, but it's what makes the city fantastic.
Excellent. Well, that's why we've got you here, because, like I say, it's certainly going to, and I suppose the difference is, the natures of the sport. Well, you've been plenty of NFL games in London. Then that's we've had that over here at Wembley and Spurs now for the best part of 20 years. How does the atmosphere compare? You've been to the Aer Lingus Classic as a fan and as a media person. How does kind of the atmosphere compare with kind of the NFL games we have at London, whether that's at Spurs or at Wembley?
It's much more adversarial in that you go to Tottenham and there's an NFL game on there, and yeah, you'll have a good chunk of, as at the Jets-Broncos game last year, so a good chunk of our Jets and Broncos fans, but a good chunk of just neutrals who were there to enjoy the game, right? But they're not screaming as if their life depends on the game. Whereas the way that the Aviva Stadium is built, it's in a sort of U shape. They only kind of built three sides of it, and one sideline is full of fans of one team, and the other sideline is full of fans of the other team. And this with the exception of the Notre Dame game, which is why I didn't like it, because the Notre Dame game were all Notre Dame fans, and basically they went 7-0 up over Navy and then spent the rest of the time at the bar, and it actually wasn't a great atmosphere. But you look at the FSU game, you look at the K-State game last year, you look at that Northwestern Nebraska game, which was unbelievable, even though there was still 10,000 empty seats. The atmosphere there was crazy because you had two sets of bands, two sets of cheer squads, all doing their own thing, basically trying to get their side of the stadium of the sort of U shape to be, to kick into gear. So what's happening in the game because all the fans are reacting to it in the authentic style that you get when you go to a college football game in America or any American football game. Whereas an NFL game in Europe, I think the ones in London, Wembley more so than the ones in Tottenham. The ones in Tottenham generally have been quite, I was at a Vikings game when the Vikings played the Jets the previous year, and there was a lot of Vikings fans there. You'd swear it was, Minnesota East, and that's kind of the atmosphere that was there. But when you're in the college game, you're in the arena. The fans are going for the game. They're not getting up to go for the drink. They're not talking to their friends when you're on third down. It's intense. It has the intensity you expect. Especially when, as we often do, we welcome teams from either the deep south or the Midwest, which are the kind of the two college football heartlands, as we know, where it is life and death. And there's only 12 games a season, and you can't lose a single one of them. So that's the fun of it, and that's the joy of it. And there's a lovely spark in the air when each side of the stadium trades blows depending on what's happening on the pitch.
And certainly it helps. We mentioned and we referenced it already, the Florida State Georgia Tech game. So Georgia Tech had Irish punter that obviously took part, won as well, so they won the game, which also helps.
Yeah.
Talking about could have a similar situation. So Adam McCann-Gibbs from Newry, get me right if I'm wrong with this, steer me right, Shane. Was committed and is a part of the North Carolina team. Could make his college football debut, all being well. Obviously, you don't know what's been going on in spring camps and things like that. All being well, how big is that to have kind of an Irish player taking part in this game again after? It was David Shanahan, wasn't it? I was trying to remember the punter's name from Georgia Tech. Yeah, David Shanahan. How big a part is it having again another Irish player? We've seen the success of Charlie Smith with the Saints. Jude McTominay got to play for the Giants. We've seen Irish kickers play in the NFL over these last couple of seasons. How big is it to have one involved in this college game?
I think it's an interesting difference between the David Shanahan experience at Georgia Tech and the Adam McCann-Gibbs experience in UNC. When David Shanahan was coming in, he didn't come over as part of the leader kicking program. Anybody who doesn't know, I'd encourage you to look it up. Tig Leader is a kicking coach. He basically is a program that brings a lot of these kickers over to college football. The amount of people he's been successful with is crazy. It's actually getting to the point now where it's not even news anymore. It's like, oh, there's another Irish guy who's after getting a college scholarship in Boston College, playing in the ACC in one of the Power Four. As we're going to have, as well as Adam McCann-Gibbs, a punter, is going to be playing in UNC. Whereas with Shanahan, it was different because I think he was going into his 4th year with the school. He'd gone a very independent route before he got in, and the media, every opportunity George Tech had put him for media, he was put up and talk about it. By the time he actually got on the pitch, he seemed quite nervous. It's like he spent an entire year talking about this game and for his first punt, and it wasn't great. The rest of his punts were very good, in fairness to David Shanahan that game, but the first punt was slightly misconnected with the ball. Whereas Adam is different. I had one chance to speak with him, and it's interesting to see how he's getting on with his teammates. Like you said, he's from the County Down area. I'm not quite sure if it's Newry or another town, and somebody in County Down might give out to me, but he is from County Down, a powerhouse of American football. It's where the Rooneys have come from. It's where Charlie Smith comes from, and now Adam McCann-Gibbs. It's unbelievable. The powerhouse that county is towards the sport. But yeah, there's a good chance that, look, I think he's a freshman. I'm not sure whether Bill Belichick, the hard-nosed disciplinarian or hard-nosed win at all costs, is going to put him out in the field, even though for almost every other reason you'd like to see the Irish guy playing in his first ever game in college football in Ireland. He might get one chance to punt. So we're not sure how that's going to be. I think the sense is that he might, but that was before training camp started. But I think it is just an amazing general signpost right where we are right now of how far we've come, that the story of Irish kickers in American football has become so big that an individual story like Adam McCann-Gibbs isn't comparatively as big. And that's nothing against him personally. I mean that in a sort of backdrop sense of how successful Irish people, and particularly Tig Leader and the leader kicking program, as well as the NFL international player pathway, has been at giving Irish talent a chance to succeed in the college system, in particular in America, and in Charlie Smith's case, the NFL.
Yeah, hopefully we get to see Adam. I mean, even stone cold hearted Bill Belichick surely will give Adam the chance to.
Surely, have you ever? Do you know what you're talking about here? Come on.
Well,
Bill Belichick.
Let's get into that. So Shane, part of obviously one of the other reasons we've got you on is you have plenty of experience with Bill Belichick in terms of you are a New England Patriots fan as well. How would you year 2, Bill Belichick's obviously made the switch. Year 1, very difficult for him in North Carolina. There's a lot of expectations. It isn't necessarily a football school. It's certainly more well known for being a basketball school. Trying to kind of get that football program moving in the right direction. How do you think kind of it's going for him? And do you think he's going to be able to successfully make kind of the switch? Because they are two very different worlds, the NFL and college football, for coaching.
I think the fact that you touched on it there, I guess the prestige or lack thereof that the school is held in when it comes to football. Like I said, it is a basketball school where Michael Jordan came from and all the rest. And that's been a point that's been used for a lot of people who are defending him. I don't know if you saw Bill Burr on the Rich Eisen show when they were like, well, what does this affect his legacy? He was like, well, since when were UNC ever a good school? Where in comparison to, let's say, for example, Bill Belichick had this headline-ridden, controversy-laden first year as the head coach of even South Carolina in the SEC, or Georgia, or Michigan, or somebody like that. Jobs which are definitely big for somebody of his name to get, but I think, UNC were in a position to make him an offer a surprise offer at that, because he was definitely trying to get back in the NFL when he took it. I don't know. He needs good news stories, because even with all this thing about Michael Lombardi being placed on paid administrative leave, which came out, there's plenty of journalists, Pablo Torre, who are doing a good job of sort of trying to get inside the mindset of the organization. At the end of last season, you see the press conferences that he did afterwards with all the UNC media, and he's the typical kind of stonewall, not giving them good answers. There's a sense that he was going to leave before his contract. He ended up staying. There's so many flashpoints in this, which it just feels like a man who is so good at controlling things is just not in control of the situation at UNC. Now, I had a chance to speak to him on Zoom, albeit in a press conference at Irish media a few months ago, and it was a time when he was sort of starting their sort of summer training program, and he definitely gave the air of somebody who was confident and looking, actually genuinely like happily looking forward to going to Ireland. I don't think he's a man capable of acting as much as his 20-something-year-old girlfriend might be giving him lessons. I don't think he's a man capable of acting. I think he generally seemed somewhat excited to be coming across the Atlantic, but you can't say that the first year at UNC has been anything other than not a disaster, but not good and legacy damaging. And the extent to which that affected him not getting into the NFL Hall of Fame as a first ballot Hall of Famer, which regardless, unless he committed some sort of crime or was found on some FBI list as a member of a terrorist organization, I don't know what Bill Belichick, from an NFL point of view, could have done to turn his reputation to not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Am I saying as a New England Patriots fan? Yeah, probably. But he is an 8-time Super Bowl champion. If you include the 2 he won as defensive coordinator with the New York Giants, it's the first one of that, which is a particularly excellent game plan coming from his brain. But there is a huge amount of reputational damage here, and the image of a man who never seemed to let distractions bother him, or always seems to be the alpha. And then there's images of him being on that CBS interview when Jordan is in the side and is like, sorry, he's not going to answer that question now, and is almost being controlled by somebody else, which is such an unusual image for him. But I think, like a lot of things that we see in the off season, or even when we look at the way the off-field controversies affected the World Cup, as a different comparison. Once the football starts, the football starts. And if he lets the football do the talking, if he gets if he can prove that his defense can work right, if he can prove that, and in fairness to him, and he did make this point himself, and I do take the point, coming into his first season, he joined in as a head coach after a time in the college football calendar when he didn't have the full control over the operation of recruitment, and particularly the transfer portal. I mean, we see this a lot even with the way that Lane Kiffin went from Ole Miss to LSU, but had to leave Ole Miss before their college football playoffs games. The college football calendar is just not structured well. And it did mean that by the time that Bill Belichick was hired, he didn't have a full season. This year he has. So this is the season now where he can turn around and say, well, listen, if I'm actually given a properly good run at this, to properly control, because there was so many transfers made last season that it was, I don't know who could have potentially meshed it together into one team. There's been less movement in the transfer portal, more core guys who've been asked to step up, and he's had a cycle to work with them. Then you have to give the best coach in NFL history the benefit of the doubt that he's going to get something out of these players. And I think the first couple of games of the season are going to count a lot, and that's why I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. And not necessarily in terms of how to skill players and whether they're fit, but just basic things that you expect a Belichick team to do right in terms of discipline, playing hard-nosed football, doing something smart on special teams, and just feeling like they're the best coach team in the ACC. That's what we want to see from North Carolina against TCU in the Aviva Stadium.
Yeah, kind of feels like coming from the NFL to college football, a rebuild or whatever, it takes a long time to kind of build a college program relative to, let's take the Patriots as a great example of what we'd seen from 24 to 25 around how Mike Vrabel could come in and all of a sudden that Patriots team's flipped around in the space of a season and it's back to the Super Bowl from winning 4 games the year before. 4 or 5 games. It's completely different world, and I'm just interested because we haven't talked about, and I wonder if, I don't know that situation with Michael Lombardi is kind of his ally. They talked about building the 33rd NFL team. That was kind of the sales pitch they were making to prospects around, we will have, this will be a factory of producing NFL-ready players. I'm not sure if that's just something maybe that just wasn't fair. I don't know if you can approach that in college football or not. The matchup's interesting. We'll get to that in a bit more detail. But they played TCU week 1 last year at home, and TCU went into Chapel Hill, beat the brakes off them at the 48-14, and kind of it didn't really pick up from there any better. I think there were some signs that the defense was getting together by the end of the year. Vegas seems to have a similar view. Kind of, they went 4-8 last year. 4.5 wins is their kind of line you can bet on over under. So they seem to have them at 4 or 5 wins. You mentioned kind of some things that you'd hope to see. Are you expected to see those things? Do you think we will get a North Carolina team that has made some progress when they take the field at Aviva Stadium in just a few days' time?
I think defensively, yes. Yes, it's a new look roster. There's a sense that Belichick is more confident in it. But I think what's interesting is the fact that TCU are coming to this in a situation where their frontline defense is going to be incredibly fast. Am I right in saying it's Paul Iowale? I have that name right, as being a very he's an excellent pass rusher for the Horned Frogs. Someone who's going to be coming in with an extra level of strength. And I've had a chance to speak with a couple of guys from the TCU defense in particular. And they seem confident. They seem prepared. They have a lot of very fast players. They can get on top of you quickly. And I think the key to this is, as much as you're expecting something good to come from the Belichick defense, can the offense from UNC hold up strong enough that they're not giving away stupid penalties, and that the offensive line is strong enough to give the quarterback the extra couple of seconds. But B, can they be creative enough to try and keep things unpredictable? I have more confidence going to this game than I did when UNC played against TCU last time. I remember staying up to watch that, and I knew it was going to be a hammering. All this ESPN coverage, I think it was ESPN coverage coming in to that matchup, and TCU were basically just like, well, listen, we're the guys who know what we're doing. All we have to do is play football. And there's a couple of special teams plays in particular in that game, which were exceptionally sloppy. This has been the case for a lot of UNC games last year. Special teams is an area where they were particularly sloppy. And I think killing the sloppiness is the best foundation that UNC will have against, like I say, a TCU team that will be confident, that will know their game plan better. I think are coming from the Big 12, which is a bit more of don't want to ruin the competitiveness of the ACC, but the way that they were competing in the Big 12 last year probably gives them more of a steel sharpening steel aspect coming into this game, and not as much overhaul. And the pressure isn't really on TCU as much as it is on UNC because of that media factor, the Belichick factor. This can't go wrong for him, because you had to play East Tennessee State afterwards, but then you look at their schedule: Clemson, Notre Dame, Pitt, then they have to play Miami, Florida, Louisville, all over the course of the season. The ACC isn't, there's a whole lot of easy games there, and knowing that they have to play Notre Dame in less than a month, or in roughly a month's time, you're going to be a huge challenge with a lot of eyeballs on them as well. So I think it's a case of, speedy, ready, locked and loaded TCU come up against a UNC team that has to prove itself, and whether it's a case of pressure creating diamonds or pressure making things collapse and hot heads, when you're jet lagged and everything else, sort of getting on top of UNC is going to be a very interesting thing to watch.
Excellent. Well, Shane, we've got a few bits to cover. I want to ask you a couple of bits as well, actually. And we don't want to blow up any of your favourite spots in Dublin, because that's the thing when people give out recommendations of places to go or whatever in a city they're familiar with. Nobody wants to blow up their own spots, but give us the best place to go for a couple of post-match pints in Dublin. So after the post-game pints, we're travelling back in from Lansdowne Road. Where do we need to be hitting up on Saturday night in Dublin for a couple of post-game pints after hopefully watching a tremendous TCU North Carolina game?
I'm trying to think of the geography now of where the stadium is. Like, it probably depends on what you're saying. If you're going back into the center, and that's like you can walk from the stadium back in towards the Temple Bar area. There's a couple of nice areas. Bowes, Bowes, is a nice pub. Small enough, but if you get a good spot in there, the Guinness in there is exceptional. There's a place called the Palace Bar in the Temple Bar area. A lot of the Temple Bar stuff is really for tourists, and it's full of, it's full of crap music and crap Guinness. That's a place that is, the Irish people actually go there as well. The best place for actually in Dublin, I reckon, for actually drinking Guinness, if that is what your drink choice is in Stony Batter, which isn't far from that Smithfield area. It's on the north side to the west, so you're kind of going far away from the stadium. But I'm sure there'll be some people who may be staying near there, or may have a chance to go and drinks. The Glimmerman, and there's another pub as well that's beside the Walsh's. Do unbelievable. I think Walsh's, you go in there and have the the Holy Trinity, Guinness, Beamish, and Murphy's, and they're all exceptionally good. And I think even if you go down on Tuesday nights, they do little cheese boards for everybody who's in there as well, for anybody who's interested in that kind of stuff. So
anyway, there for the whole week, yeah.
If you were there for a good chunk, but yeah, for anybody who's not a drinker or not looking to or looking to try and do something during their day rather than at night, if you get a dart or a bus up to Howth, it's around 30 minutes north of Dublin, but it's a peninsula. It's almost an island in Dublin Harbour. Some of the most naturally beautiful scenery you can see. If you're driving, it's a nice drive, but there is a summit up there that you can go for a walk, and you get a view of Dublin Bay. And all this kind of thing as well, because sometimes when you're in a big city, you forget that it's on the coast, and going up there, it's proper, like the kind of cliffs that usually you'd see advertised for the west of Ireland. But we have a little spot over here in Dublin as well, so it's a pretty good place to go during the daytime for anybody who's interested in that kind of stuff. But I imagine for anybody who's more interested in the black stuff than going for a healthy walk, there's plenty of good spots in town. Bowes and the Palace Bar are two places near enough the stadium, which would be good, because the stuff right beside the stadium, you're going to be paying stupid money for beer. So kind of, yeah, if it looks good and you want to go in there, grand. But if not, then keep walking back into town.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the tip, Shane. Got to get them in. I always love you trying to go to all different parts of Dublin when we visit, just to try and get to a few different places. But some cracking recommendations there. You're going to be a busy man, obviously. You're going to be covering the game, but also you've got you in the Irish NFL show. I've got an event before the game on the Saturday. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Where can we get to that if we want to come and see that?
Yeah, so the Arlington Hotel is a hotel. It's right in the city centre of Dublin, around the corner from O'Connell Street. That's the street with the big spire on it. So it's on the river. A lot of people might be staying near there. It's becoming we're trying to make it a bit of a hub for fans coming over. But we are doing a live NFL preview show there at midday on the Saturday. So people can come in, have their breakfast, pretty good traditional Irish breakfast in there. The ale. If you're drinking Smithwick's or Kilkenny Red Ale earlier on the day, it's actually quite good in that bar as well. That would be my recommendation if you are in the Arlington and fancy the pint at midday on a Saturday. You know, we've all done it at some point. But we're going to be up there on stage, the Irish NFL show, doing our NFL season preview. We'll be talking college football. We'll be talking NFL, and we're looking to have a bit of interaction with people in the crowd as to what they think is going to happen when the league kicks off in, oh my God, less than 3 weeks' time. It's coming on us really fast. So if anybody there, the Arlington Hotel in City Centre, when we are at Irish NFL Show on Instagram, Twitter, and pretty much with the same thing across all of our social media. So if you want to have more details, you can check us out there.
Excellent. It's in the episode description. Go give the Irish NFL Show guys. Well, we had Craig on the other week discussing the Giants as part of our NFC East preview.
Craig,
so getting all the NFL.
Yeah, Craig is the MVP. You want to see the amount of work that man does. He never turns off. And even like when people are like, it'll be grand, because in Irish we're like, it'll be grand. It's never it'll be grand for Craig. He truly is one of the greats. I'm glad you got a sense of his enormous cranial capacity.
Yeah, it was awesome as part of our NFC East preview talking about the Giants. But we will make sure we come along and see yourself, Shane, Craig, and the rest of the guys as part of the Irish NFL show at the Arlington Hotel, just by O'Connell Bridge. Saturday, 12 o'clock on the day of the game. It's the 29th, isn't it? 29th of August. Make sure you're down there. If you're in town for the game, get down to see the Irish NFL season preview show. Shane, it's been a pleasure. Thank you ever so much for joining us, and we'll see you probably for a couple of pints in a few days' time. Yeah, please. One last thing to say, in case anybody's thinking I'm trying to sell tickets, this thing is not. It's free. Just come into the bar. You can get your breakfast, get your thing. We're not charging in. We're just going to be on stage talking shite. So please, feel free to come in. I think the Premier League might even be on one of the screens as well, so you'll be able to have a good bit of crack. Excellent. What a sales pitch. We'll clip that, and that's the pitch. So get down to the Irish NFL show season preview show. We'll see you on Saturday, Shane. Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Excellent for us. The second part of our Aer Lingus College Football Classic preview. We've got a returning guest. It's been a while, but we've got Simon Carroll from the Touchdown joining us. I think, Si, you came on in our very first season in one of our NFL preview weeks, and we talked a little about the Chargers and things like that. It's been a long time since. Good to have you back. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad, Paul. I mean, obviously, me and you've been talking football for a long time now, and I can't remember the first time I came on your show. I've got to be honest. I do remember seeing you in London after a game once, watching Red Zone in a pub. I think that's where it all started, didn't it? But yeah, delighted to be back on the show and talking some college football this time.
Excellent. Yeah, we are obviously a very exciting part. We are just a few days away from Dublin being the centre of the college football world again. Obviously, you've been going to those games for obviously quite a while now. Just how excited are you to be in Dublin again for a cracking matchup? We've got TCU and North Carolina.
Can't wait, Paul, mate. Honestly, can't wait. It's become the de facto start of the college football season, really, hasn't it? A trip to Dublin. So this will be my 5th in a row, which obviously blessed to go and watch the only college football game of the season. It was anyway for the last few years that really, unless you head over to the States, you can get to as a British fan of college football. Dublin's amazing. The Aviva Stadium's amazing. The spectacle's amazing. College football's everything you'd hope it to be. They do a great job of bringing over all that pageantry and all that Americana to Dublin. So if anybody's ever toying with the idea of going, I firmly suggest, whether you support either the teams or not, get over there, embrace the sport, see what the difference is between college football and the NFL and what it means to be a college fan. This year, great matchup. I was lucky to have 2 Big 12 teams over last year in Iowa State and Kansas State. Another one this year, TCU, who are hoping for good things this season and going up against a very interesting North Carolina team, obviously, which led by one of the greatest ever to do it, but not without its drama at UNC, which I think is par for the course over in Chapel Hill. So yeah, really good storylines, really good atmosphere. Cannot wait to be there on Friday, Saturday.
Friday, Saturday be a great game that we've got to look forward to. A few pints, no doubt, and just a great all-round atmosphere. So I suppose why I reached out to ask you to come and speak to us, speak on TCU a little bit, is we know from kind of following you, have a love of the Big 12. We've got a Big 12 matchup at Wembley for the first college football game in the UK for the Union Jack Classic. Why is the Big 12, or why are you such a big fan of the Big 12? Why is it so important to you?
Because quite simply, it's the most fun conference to watch. It's that simple. I think something that really attracts me to college football is that on any given Saturday, a small team can beat a big team. And that's not like it is in the NFL where the margins are very slim. In college football, you've got the haves, the have-nots, the big blue blood programs and the minnows, but you still see Appalachian State beat Michigan. Every year you see a MAC team go and beat an SEC team. It's brilliant. And that's what I love about college football. But the Big 12, unlike the other power conferences, so there's 4 power conferences now, from top to bottom, the most competitive conference in America. Without a doubt. I think I saw a graphic today, actually, quite interesting graphic talking about NIL spend. And outside of Texas Tech, TCU, who we know have got big bucks and spent like over close to 35 million, the rest of them were within 2 or 3 million of each other and how much they've spent. What that translates to on the football field is a really competitive conference, and it doesn't do them any favours when it comes to the college football playoff. You tend to only see one team from the Big 12 getting there because they fight each other and they don't have that kudos, that kind of status that the SEC has. You can turn around and say to somebody else, "Oh, it's because we're such a strong conference." The Big 12 doesn't have that kind of allure right now. But you watch any game, you watch West Virginia play UCF. Who's going to win? Nobody knows. You watch Arizona take on Kansas State. You don't know who's going to win. There's Cincinnati, there's Utah. Everywhere you look, there's quality football teams. Something else that really appealed to me. I mean, obviously, I do quite like defensive football in the NFL, but college football is different. I just want to see shootouts. And the Big 12 just, for a good 2 decades, just decided they weren't going to do defense, and that really appealed to me too. So, yeah, it's kind of been my thing, my little niche, I suppose. You could call me, I think the kids call me a Big 12 stan now. So I will die on the Big 12 hill. But if anybody wants to start really getting into college football, hit the Big 12 up first, and then go and see the other conferences. You'll see the difference. You really will. Honestly, for me, the best conference hands down.
Yeah, I think we've seen it, especially over the last few seasons as well. There's been some great stories. Arizona State coming into it, being kind of projected to be bottom of the pile, winning it, almost beating Texas in a college football playoff game. And more often than not, we're getting to the last couple of weeks of the season, and there's 7-8 teams still in the mix to get to that Big 12 championship game. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it is certainly the most exciting competitive division and conference in.
And disrespected, Paul. Disrespected conference. Like I've got I really got my high horse about this. I do this thing every year where I compare Power 4 interconference basically win-loss records. I factor in group of 5 losses or group of 6 losses as it is now, because I think that's important. But for the past 2 years, the Big 12 has been second 2 years ago and first in terms of winning percentage out of conference last season. I'm not including the small games where they beat teams from the group of 5. They're expected to beat the group of 5, but when it comes to, and it's very important for the Big 12 in that regard to win some of these non-conference games like we see in Dublin this weekend, because they've got to establish themselves. I mean, it's no good just sitting there and accepting the narrative that the Big Ten and the SEC are the powerful teams. If you keep beating them, then they have to change the tune. So obviously the first stage of things is making sure you're better than the ACC. That's going to come this weekend when TCU hopefully hammer North Carolina to pieces.
I was going to say I don't think we needed to say which side, who you're potentially rooting for, but as obviously someone as part of the college football media in the UK, I'm sure you are very down the line. But let's just have a quick word from you on the Union Jack Classic. How cool is it? And again, from you covering the sport for as long as you have, how cool is it just to finally have a game even closer on the doorstep down at Wembley in a few weeks' time?
I don't think people quite realise just how privileged we are with this game, really. Wembley Stadium, quite special. It's a massive stadium. I don't expect us to sell it out, but it's still going to be a spectacle. The fact that, the guys running it, Thomas and Brian and Rob, they've done an amazing job in basically bringing in the community, the UK American football community, so to speak, college football, NFL, BAFA, all those people together to celebrate this incredible achievement that they've made, really, and they've got about it the right way. It's a massive task, but I'm also dead pleased that, again, it's 2 more Big 12 teams. So I was privileged to go out to Kansas in November as part of the media group, basically trying to encourage more eyes on the Union Jack Classic, which they didn't need to take me to Kansas to do that. I'd have done it from the. You can see Kansas over my shoulder. You can see Kansas on my shirt. Big, massive Big 12 fan, but Kansas got a special place in my heart after that trip. So excited for it. It really is an incredible moment. I believe they've got 3 games at Wembley, so we've got 3 seasons of it if everything goes well. Really, I mean, that's week 3, so we've got plenty of time to get into the Union Jack Classic, plenty of time to get the excitement bubbling about that. And sometimes when you go to Dublin, amazing experience, but sometimes you don't get the teams at top tilt. Obviously, it's the first week of the season, week 0, so to speak. So sometimes you get shocks, which is great. Sometimes you'll see, mistake-riddled football, which is part and parcel of college football and quite fun too. But by week 3, you'll see 2 teams coming to London. They'll be top speed. One will just come from a massive rivalry game against Missouri. The other one will come from playing Texas A&M at College Station. So these teams will be ready to go. But I don't think you need to sell it outside of the fact that it's Big 12 football. It's Arizona State, it's Kansas, it's Wembley Stadium, it's London. It's going to be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and I encourage anyone. There are tickets available. Get yourself down. I know, we've gone through that whole thing with the London games for the NFL about the prices of the tickets and what have you. Union Jack Classic tickets you can get in much more reasonable than the offerings at Spurs and even the Jaguars at Wembley as well. So yeah, get involved, come down and watch what should be a tremendous game. And I think we're going to have. We've been blessed in Dublin, 2 really good games, and I know week 0 it can be a bit sloppy football at times. But the Florida State Georgia Tech game, Farmageddon last year, we've been kind of treated to 2 really, really good close games as well in the last couple of years. And we've talked a little bit about North Carolina, but getting into TCU a little bit, Sam, this is a program that is not too many seasons off appearing in a national championship game that's coming to Dublin. Max Duggan, Quentin Johnson, when he could catch a ball. Obviously, that's changed in the NFL more recently. But how are TCU set kind of entering into 2026? Kind of where are the sort of they standing in the Big 12 at the minute?
The dark horses, Paul. You can't forget Max Duggan making a run at the Heisman Trophy, and I saw some clips of him today, actually, watching him angry running on. Oh, what a moment. TCU are a good football team. They've consistently punched above their weight throughout their history. They've won 2 national championships. They've been to a couple more. They're a good school to watch. Really good, and traditionally built on defense, but not anymore. Sonny Dykes, Gary Patterson was the head coach for almost 2 decades, I think, and he established TCU. First they were in the WAC, then they went to the Mountain West. They finally got to the Big 12. Sonny Dykes has come in. Sonny Dykes is a great offensive-minded head coach, and basically dragged TCU into the modern era of offensive football. So we've seen TCU hit 9-4 for the last 2 seasons. It was on, like you say, 4 seasons ago they went all the way to the national championship game. So this is a team on the cusp more often than not. Cracking uniforms, very entertaining to watch, like you said. But I think things have changed a little bit now at TCU. We've obviously seen Gordon Sammis, the offensive coordinator, coming from UConn. I think this is all down to a little bit of bitterness from Sonny Dykes when Josh Hoover, the quarterback, left for Indiana. In the offseason, he kept referring to how many interceptions there were and how many turnovers there were with Josh Hoover, quarterback. Now, Gordon Sammis is quite, I would say, clock management style of offense. He's I'd say, quite like ball secure with his football. So I think that's where that comes in. But Sonny Dykes has the explosion. So what we're going to see on offense might be a little bit different, but I think we'll have those big play moments still, which is very exciting. They're prime. I think everyone's talking Texas Tech. Everyone's talking BYU. Houston, because they've got some money, are getting some nice little shine them as well. But everyone seems to be forgetting about little old TCU, just like they have done throughout their history. The Horned Frogs are going to come through. And I tell you what, I've seen the schedule. It won't surprise me if they're 6-0 halfway through the season at all.
And does that sort of suit them in terms of kind of the noise being around everybody else and the expectations being on the other teams in the Big 12, and them just to kind of sort of, just go steady away and kind of just get themselves rolling?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they've been kind of slighted in the state of Texas. You look at Texas and Texas A&M, who were once part of the Big 12. They used to get all the credit. They've gone out now. You think, it's time for TCU. Fort Worth is literally a stone's throw away from Dallas. You think, they're the big team now. SMU in the ACC have kind of understood. They had a playoff run recently. You've got Baylor in there. Texas Tech have got all this money now. It constantly seems like people forget about Texas Christian University, a school who we've seen, like I say, national champions. We've seen LaDainian Tomlinson start for this team. We've seen the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, throw this team all the way to a Rose Bowl. This is a school that constantly wins. People just sleep on them all the time. And like you say, I think that does help them. Sonny Dykes is a very astute, schemer. Really, I think he'll be playing into that. He'll have all that bulletin board material on the wall, on the locker room wall. Don't worry about that. But honestly, teams shouldn't sleep on this. They shouldn't. North Carolina certainly won't. It's not Bill Belichick style at all. Bill Belichick will just be outplayed on Saturday. But TCU in general, they could go under the radar for quite a while till their season starts getting a bit sticky. At that point, the momentum might be with them, and all bets are off.
And on that, so speaking about kind of the noise about being on other teams, the noise had a Aer Lingus Classic, understandably, because it's one of if not the greatest, but one of the greatest NFL coaches of all times coming over with his team. The noises around Belichick, and it was a bit of a mess last year in North Carolina, kind of year one. They were going about this, creating the 33rd NFL team. How do TCU match up with North Carolina? TCU are favourites. That's not necessarily been a great position to be in the Aer Lingus College Football Classic the last few years. We've seen the underdogs win outright on a few occasions. But how do TCU match up with North Carolina?
It's an interesting one. This sounds like you've teamed me up nicely here for a couple of articles I've got coming out of the touchdown today. I did TCU's offense versus North Carolina's defense, 3 matchups to watch. So tomorrow it's going to be the other way around, and we'll look at the coaches on Wednesday. Interesting. It's going to be interesting, especially Belichick. I know Steve. You probably talked about this already, but Steve Belichick isn't going to make the flight over, which is particularly interesting. We'll see how the defense does. But they're going up against a new quarterback in Jaden Craig, who's come over from Harvard, had an incredible career with the Crimson in the Ivy League. But I think we all know it's a step up from the Ivy League to the Big 12. How is he going to do? And like I say, in this Gordon Sammis new offensive coordinator, this new system, how is he going to compare to, say, how Josh Hoover did the year before? A quarterback who's now with Indiana, the chosen one to replace Fernando Mendoza. So he's an interesting piece. I think you'll see a lot of running game from TCU to start the season off. Jeremy Payne will be your guy. He kind of broke through a bit last season. He'll take a lot of pressure off Jaden Craig for you. Outside of that, the wide receivers quite kind of key. Particularly, I'd say the main guy is Jeremy Scott. I think he got 800 yards last year. He's a big time weapon for him, and so would have been Dozie Ezekanma, who brother of Eric Ezekanma, who was with the Dolphins. I can't tell you who he's with now in the NFL, if he even is in the NFL. But wide receiver blood in him. However, I don't think he's coming because of a bit of a dust up in the changing room. It was so bad it involved the authorities. I think Ezekanma's still in a hospital. So on defense, a guy called Jacob Fields, who came over, I think from Louisiana Tech or South Alabama, I can't really remember. He was supposed to be starting this year, but he's been kicked off the team for this incident. So there's a bit of drama on TCU's defense. And probably the weakest part of the team is probably the secondary, I'd say, although the best player maybe even on the whole roster is safety Jamal Johnson. So there's some questions there. I think the interesting thing on defense is that because obviously North Carolina have got Bobby Petrino as an offensive coordinator who, again, he's a bit of a bag of tricks, isn't he? He's a bit of a snake, but I'll leave that for the other guy talking about North Carolina. But yeah, he's going to throw some things at TCU they're not expecting. That's just what you've got to expect with Bobby Petrino, expect the unexpected. Andy Avalos, he's kind of like the other way inclined. You're not going to get these exotic blitz packages. You're going to get 4-3, sub package 3-4. The only time you're going to see two linebackers on the field is when they play too many wide receivers on the opposite side. He's going to beat the man in front of you. He's going to be very sound fundamentally. And on defense, I think they're going to play it pretty straight laced. Obviously, North Carolina are bringing a new quarterback in, and Billy Edwards, I think, will be starting. So they'll have their opportunities to put him under pressure too. Intriguing matchup. I just think pound for pound, TCU are a better football team. I think there's a lot saying about Bill Belichick and how good he is as a coach, but that doing that and assuming he's going to be better than the man opposite him is a disservice to Sonny Dykes. It's a disservice to Andy Avalos and Gordon Samis. This is a well-coached football team. They'll come prepared. Honestly, the matchup's quite intriguing, but really, I just think they're going to be better than them, Paul. I really do.
I mean, we saw these two faced off in week 1 last year in Chapel Hill. And
it was ruthless, wasn't it?
Yeah, wiped the floor with them, 48-14, and it was welcome to college football moment. We talk about welcome to the NFL moments, don't we? But welcome to the college football moment, maybe for Belichick. Are you expecting the gap to be as big, or are you expecting North Carolina to have improved from where they were last year? I think there were some more positive signs down the stretch, a little bit for North Carolina last year. But are you expecting the gap to be closer? And also, does it help the fact that it's sort of that week 0 game as well?
Well, it better be closer. I'll tell you that now. Bill Belichick's in a world of trouble if he's not closer than 48-14. TCU, they've suffered some losses, some attrition to the NFL. We saw some wide receivers at the NFL, didn't we? We saw, obviously, the change of quarterback. A lovely moment at the end of last season with the backup quarterback who's a Fort Worth native. He came back from Vanderbilt. He spent 2 years backing up Josh Hoover, and he got thrown in for the last game. It was the last game of his career, was his first as a starter, and he helped TCU beat USC 30-27 in the Alamo Bowl, which is quite incredible. A lovely little moment. But yeah, the gap will be closer. If it isn't, I'd be shocked. I mean, for starters, Dublin games are pretty close normally anyway. Like you say, there's those teething issues you get at the start of the campaign. It's week 0, which always is a bit spooky. We see teams come over and have the Dublin curse, as they say. Kansas State couldn't really get over it last year. Florida State really did tank the year before. And, let's not do North Carolina a disservice either, to be honest. They have means, they have money, they have intention to be a good football team. So I assume they've recruited pretty decently this offseason as well themselves. TCU would be foolish to go into this thinking it's going to be 48-14 again. But all the signs do point to a TCU victory, which is pleasing, shall we say. But yeah, I do think it's going to be much closer, much more of a contest. Another reason for fans to get out there and give it a watch, because I'm sure there's still tickets left. And if there is, and you're hanging around doing nothing this bank holiday weekend, just pay £50, jump on a flight to Dublin and come and have a pint with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I think there are a few tickets left, and we've seen that. So we've seen regularly kind of 47,000 plus fans in that Aviva Stadium in Dublin. For these games, and just for the benefit of us going and watching, we want it to be a close game. We want it to be competitive. although maybe seeing Belichick get trounced would be fun. I don't know. But,
that's a classic British approach to everything, isn't it? We love a bit of misery. We take a pleasure. Operation who gets upset the most. That's what we love.
Yeah. But I think we want to see a close game. We want to see a competitive game. As a springboard for this, how important? Because we've seen, like I say, you mentioned Florida State just completely. They were coming off just missing out on the college football playoff. Maybe it was a crime that they missed out on. It depends, kind of your thoughts on that. And they really struggled. They went, I think it was 2-10. They had a nightmare season. Kansas State maybe didn't live up to expectations last year. How pivotal is this, particularly if you're at TCU and you're the favourite, to kind of get off to a good start here, get the win, and get back on the plane home?
It's pivotal for TCU because those out-of-conference wins are massively important for the Big 12. It's pivotal because they need a good running, winning record by the time it gets that halfway stage and the schedule gets nasty. I think the consequences of losing this game are worse than the bonus in winning it, so to speak. We saw Kansas State struggle mightily last season to be the team that we all think they can be. Florida State tanked. We've seen Nebraska. Scott Frost was sat within, I think, a month and a half of his trip over to Dublin. But on the flip, and like Navy playing Notre Dame, I don't think we can take any inference from that one. But on the flip side, we haven't really seen. Georgia Tech did quite well. For Georgia Tech standards, they had a great season, but I mean, they didn't make ruffle, didn't put any trees, didn't get to the playoffs. Northwestern beat Nebraska, and that was the only game they won all season. Just tells you how bad Nebraska was. So, and Iowa State under Matt Campbell, fantastic program again, but didn't really kick on. So I'd say really it's going to take more than a win in Dublin to make your season. However, if you lose in Dublin, then you're an uphill battle. So I think for TCU to win it is very important, really. I couldn't tell you what UNC's schedule is looking at it after that, but I think they're in for a hell of a ride anyway, all the way through the year. But yeah, to me, if TCU walk away from Dublin with a week 0 win, you've essentially got one up on the rest of the conference already. You've got that extra bye week somewhere in the middle of the season, which is going to be valuable. I really do think that they can do it. I think it will be a decent building block. I won't say springboard, but a building block for TCU to, make a push at a conference that many people, like you say, are just overlooking them a little bit.
Yeah, I think, although I've been on Texas Tech about their troubles this offseason, I suppose, with what's going on. A quarterback, BYU, strongly fancied as well, but it kind of feels like somebody else can crash the party. It
Absolutely.
Really does. And because we know from, again, we talked about earlier, there's so many teams involved and in the race right up until the end of the season. And yeah, why not TCU? I think their projection 6.5 wins. Are you expecting them kind of to surpass that and be right in the mix?
I'm heavily on the over. I think 8 wins is probably about right for me, maybe even more. I think it depends how they get this first starting of the season going. Really, after North Carolina, it'll be 2 simple out conference games, and then I think the first few games are teams you kind of expect to be in the bottom half of the conference. But again, it's the Big 12. We don't really know anything. 2 years ago, we all expect Arizona State to prop up the conference. They end up getting to the playoffs on Cam Scatterbo in the backfield. It's hard to say. It is hard to say. I think 6.5 wins is the minimum. If Sonny Dykes has had 2 9-win seasons in a row, he's not going to accept anything less, really, for me, in my mind. I think TCU are a much better football team than that, quite frankly. Yes, obviously it's the Big 12, and that's probably what's been factored in there a little bit. But to me, there's 3 out-of-conference wins on a plate right there, and that's halfway to 6 wins in a bowl game. After that, even if you split the rest of the games, you're looking good, aren't you, to break that? So I'm heavily on the over for that one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they'll be pushing towards the top of the Big 12, and just hopefully we get to see the best of TCU on Saturday in Dublin. Just unbelievably exciting matchup, I think, and we should see a real quality Big 12 team in action. What's your kind of just to more talk on Dublin? So we asked maybe a little bit of a disadvantage because we had somebody from Dublin discussing the UNC. But obviously you've been out for these games 5 years in a row. What are your kind of favourite parts of the city? Not to blow up any of your kind of spots that maybe you enjoy going to, but there's going to be thousands of people that are coming off the back of these recommendations now, Si. But where are kind of your favourite spots in Dublin, to enjoy around the game and before and after the game?
Well, I mean, we're all tourists at this stage, aren't we? I mean, I don't mind admitting it. It's probably not the cheapest place to go, but Temple Bar's where we need to be. It's quite simple. Every single pub will be packed with college football fans. The one thing that the Aer Lingus College Football Classic do really well is bringing fans over from America, so you get to immerse yourself amongst that culture. That's why I always stay quite close to Temple Bar, really, so I can get in amongst it, feel it, talk to the fans. I can't wait. I hope it's raining, not raining, but I hope it's cold than it has been, because I've got a nice TCU jumper I want to wear. I'll be gutted nice. if I have to wear a t-shirt. I'll be livid. I'll say that right now. But yeah, there's loads of bars. My favourite bar's probably Go-Garties. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. That's my favourite one. There's a real nice place called the Hardware Store, a little bit off the beaten track, that does a nice, great for after the game, because you go downstairs there and they've got like this burger joint. It's classic, like American diner style, so you can have a nice burger there. But yeah, basically, I don't spend much time other than doing football and beer, mate, to be quite frank. So yeah, all my recommendations will be Temple Bar, get in the bar, enjoy the live music, because that's always a great crack. But yeah, I mean, I hate it when people think, say that they're Irish when they're not. I've got a bit of Irish family. Part of it. I'm an Englishman, sadly. I'd love to be Irish, because I think I just absolutely love it out there. 2 days a year, 3 days a year, something like that. It's great to pretend to be an Irishman, and drink as much Guinness as possible. So that's all I'll be doing outside of football, mate. Don't look for any culture in this corner.
Excellent. No, that's good. Look, I'm much the same myself on these trips. To Dublin, and yeah, very much looking forward to it again. Hopefully, we'll catch you for a pint somewhere around Temple Bar then on Friday night or Saturday night after the game.
Yeah, if you're buying, I'll be there, mate. Don't worry about that.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. Give a shout out, because look, we have to get the plugs in. You mentioned obviously you've got some articles that have come out and will be coming out this week previewing the game. But where can we follow all your fine work, Si?
Oh, well, you'll see it all at the Touchdown. So everything, me and a handful of talented writers we've got working for us this season. So NFL, college football, Canadian football, fantasy, betting, we'll have some good articles on all those subjects, and the NFL draft as well, of course. So head over to the touchdown.co.uk. Outside of that, I'm hoping to write for DAZN again this year, if possible. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Hopefully you'll learn a bit more this week. But yeah, I'll be all over your feeds. Don't worry about that. I'll be in your socials, particularly Twitter, because it's the only one I know what to do. So if you're into college football, keep an eye on me. You can follow me at NFL Draft Site, or you can follow the Touchdown at the Touchdown NFL.
Excellent. Make sure you go give Si and the Touchdown a follow. Fantastic work that the guys do across all the different codes of American football. And yes, Si, we look forward to seeing you. Looking forward to a great game, and we'll see you at some point over the weekend.
Thanks for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
And that's a wrap on our Aer Lingus College Football Classic preview. Thanks to Shane. Go give him a follow at the Irish NFL Show. Don't forget, if you're in Dublin, the Irish NFL Show have got their NFL season preview at the Arlington Hotel, noon on the Saturday, the 29th. So go give those guys a follow and go check out the event if you're in town. And thanks to Si. Looking forward to meeting Si for a pint or two, but also go follow Si's work at the Touchdown and also at NFL Draft Si. Be able to see, hopefully Si will be writing for DAZN again. Does fantastic work, so make sure you go follow both their guys and their respective channels of work. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you follow us, most importantly, at GTW_GTC. Podcast is available on YouTube, all our and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Podbean. Check out all our social posts on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky as well. We've got a very exciting announcement about the future of Good Teams Win Great Teams cover over the next week or so keep your eyes peeled for that. But in the meantime, enjoy the game in Dublin, however you're watching it, and we'll be back for our run into the NFL season and also more Union Jack Classic build-up over the next couple of weeks.